Have you ever read a story so chilling it makes you wonder who could have written this? Well, let's look at the horror genre's most prolific author, Stephen King. Stephen King has been a popular author since the 1970s. His work over time has proved to be some of the most successful literature ever written. I prepared the material in this speech by doing extensive research about his life. I have always loved his stories. I believe that he has a way of captivating his audience through suspense and thrill. My mother is an author, so when I was a child, I was exposed to a lot of different authors and writing styles, and Stephen King always stuck with me even through adulthood. He has always been known for his gruesome and chilling stories, but how did he come up with these ideas? What inspired his writing? Before the stories were even published, he was an English teacher from Maine. I want to first focus on the time before he became a published author, then talking about his success as one of the best-selling authors in history, and finally talking about King's impressive philanthropic work. So what inspires a person to write? What happens to a horror author to inspire their stories? To find this out, we must take a look at the beginning of Stephen King's life. Stephen King had a challenging childhood. He was born in Portland, Maine, and by the time he was 2, his father had left his family, leaving his mother to raise Stephen and his older brother David by herself. She frequently moved around the state of Maine to find work, so they were never in one space for very long. But through his childhood, Stephen had a deep interest in literature, writing, and reading. So when he was of age, he decided to go to college at the University of Maine, where he got his Bachelor's of Art in English. After graduation, he went to teach English at a high school in Maine, and while he was teaching, he was a successful teacher, but he didn't really enjoy it. He didn't like the feeling of being on stage. And during the time of teaching, he was also going through a big financial struggle as teaching was his only source of income, as his novels were not being sold and were being rejected by publishers. And during the time of his teaching, he struggled with alcoholism, which started from his early 20s and into his early 30s. He was also addicted to drugs for a period of time. And during his alcoholism, he wrote many stories, which a lot of them he reports he doesn't even remember writing. His wife Tabitha had to stage an intervention to help him get on the right track. And during this time, he wrote Carrie, which is now one of the most popular novels in history, but before it was published, it was rejected by 30 publishers, and it took him over 10 years to sell his first novel. According to Goodreads, he actually threw away the first few pages of Carrie, but his wife Tabitha thought it had potential, so she dug it out of the trash. A little bit later in life, he achieved literary success. His first book was published by the New American Library. It was published in 1974, and according to CNN, this publishing move helped his family out of hard times, and his first book was actually made into a movie in 1976. Stephen King has written 62 novels focusing in horror and suspense. And according to biography.com, he has also written over 200 short stories, and he often writes under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman. His famous works include It, The Shining, and The Dark Tower. And he also has a very popular memoir. It's called On Writing, a memoir of the craft, which was published in 2000 after a life-changing car accident. According to Wikipedia, he now has a net worth of over $400 million. His books worldwide have sold over 350 million copies. He has also won a National Book Award, a Medal of Distinguished Contribution to American Letters in 2003, which is one of the highest awards you can get as an author. According to his website, StephenKing.com, he was awarded the Mystery Writers of America Grand Masters Award in 2007, and he was also awarded the Edgar Award for Best Novel, Mr. Mercedes, in 2015. Along with his impressive list of works and awards, Stephen is a humanitarian and is always looking out for the needs of others. Stephen and his wife Tabitha founded the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation in 1986. According to their website, it is to address underlying social and environmental issues in Maine communities. So they look for service organizations that can reach the most people possible to help. The foundation itself gives out about $2.8 million a year in grants, and Stephen King himself donates over $4 million to different causes he believes in, mainly focusing around literary works, such as libraries, schools, and supporting literary arts in programs that may be underfunded. So let's review what we now know about Stephen King. Today's speech addressed the complicated, successful life of Stephen King. Perhaps his story is one of the examples of true resiliency of the human spirit. He was able to persevere through the hardships in his life and had the courage to keep going. His tales can be haunting. Through his decades of writing, he has reached millions of readers and inspired many writers. His legacy will continue to go on through the centuries to come, through his stories and philanthropic efforts.